C, which is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. That's going to be on your EOC, just so you know. But we'll talk about the acronym in a second. So triangles are congruent. Cameron, can you stop? If triangles have the same shape and size, they have to be literally identical. So they have to be the same size, they have to be the same shape, because that would make sense, because congruent means equal. Each triangle has 3 congruent what?
Angles.
Sides and angles.
Oh.
They're not the same thing. And this is where people are getting this wrong, because angles are on the inside of the triangle. Sides are on the outside of the triangle. So when you're doing math, angles add to make 180. Sides do not add to make 180, which is what people are trying to do today. Sides will not add to make 180, because you can have a triangle that's this big and you can have a triangle that's this big. They're not all going to be 180, but on the inside, it makes 180. Okay. So if all six of the corresponding parts, which means like matching parts of 2 triangles, are congruent. So if all the parts are congruent, then that means that the triangles are congruent. So this is where it comes into play, where you're going to have an IXL today. The IXL is not math related. It's literally just typing in letters. So tomorrow, you don't have a computer at home? You don't have a computer at home either? And you can use your phone because it's not math related. It's like,
we're gonna be doing work because we have testing tomorrow.
so with tomorrow, tomorrow you obviously have PM2. So if you're leaving early, that's fine as long as you do your IXL today. If you're come tomorrow to class, because a lot of people leave early on testing days, if you don't plan on coming to class, just make sure you have the IXL done. If you come to class, I'm going to tell you to work on the IXL. Everybody else, earlier in the days, IXL's due, so I can grade it during PM testing. But because we kind of have this little flexibility, if you finish it in class, I'll just adjust your grade. So I'll put in your grade as is, and then if you come to class and finish it, I'll add it. Okay. But if you don't come because you're leaving early, that's fine. Okay, so congruent triangles, you can write this a bunch of different ways. We're going to write it one way. If I say triangle BCA, can you guys stop? If I say BCA, there is a specific letter that matches with each one of these. It's not ABC. No. F? No. Hold on. It is F. G-E. So the first way you write it, it does not matter. If I say ABC, BCA, or if I say whatever CBA, but the second way you write it, the second triangle is based on the first triangle. So I have to write out my corresponding angles. So if I say angle B is congruent to something on the other triangle, what is the corresponding angle? F. If I say angle C is congruent to something, what does that match with? G. And then angle A matches with E. The angles are very easy to recognize. The sides are a little bit harder because you're not always going to have this picture. Okay, so if you don't have the picture, you need to know how to match them without the picture as well, which is what we're going to do later. For now, let's use the picture. So if I say AB, what would AB's side match with? EF. If I say CA matches with something, what does that match with? GE. And then the last one is going to be, let's say CB. What is it? GF. Okay, so these are angles because it looks like the little inequality thing. It's going to say like the measure of the angle versus sides. Angles are on the inside. Sides are on the outside. There's a difference because when we get to the math problems, you're going to need to know the difference between inside versus outside. Okay. Okay. Now we get into the congruent parts of congruent triangles, or corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So 2 triangles are congruent if and only if their corresponding parts are all congruent. Everything needs to match. So once again, congruent. So CPCTC stands for this really long acronym. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. This acronym will be on your EOC. They will not have it typed out as that really long sentence. Basically, what it stands for when we get to doing proofs is if they tell you that the two triangles are congruent, like kind of like we just did, I told you that these two triangles are congruent. You can tell me all of this information because I know they're congruent. Because they're congruent, I could say all the angles are congruent, and then I could say all the sides are congruent. So if for these two triangles, if I want to write a congruency statement, like ARC is congruent to the other triangle, can anybody figure out what angle actually matches with angle A? It is not O. It is E.
What?
How do you know A and E are the ones that match? Because there's only one correct answer. How do you know? Nice. Because this one has 3 ticks and this one has 1 tick, and they're creating that angle A. This one has 3 ticks and 1 tick, so it's creating angle E. So you have to look at the tick marks because they're going to help you tell which ones are actually congruent. So A matches with E. R matches with what? O. And then last but not least would be G. Okay. So now let's figure out all the corresponding parts to 2 triangles. I'm going to give you 2 new triangles. So I'm going to say ABC is congruent to IJK. These are 2 triangles that I just made up. There's not a picture of them because you have to do this without a picture. So you have to list all 3 angles that are congruent, and you have to list all 3 sides that are congruent. Take a second, do the angles. The angles are easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So I want you to list out angle A is congruent to something, angle B is congruent to something, and angle C. And then you're going to do the same thing for the sides. So see if you can figure these out based on the location of the letter in the sentence. See if you can find the matching angles and the matching sides without a picture, because they're not ever going to, well, it doesn't say like 50-50, they give you a picture. Okay, what's A congruent to? I. What is B congruent to? J. And last one? Okay, those are really simple, right? Okay, the sides are a little bit harder. If I say AB, what is AB, the distance from A to B? IJ.
How?
Because it's the location in the sentence. They're the first 2 letters. So they're going to match the first 2 letters. Ah, okay. BC is the last 2 letters. So that's J and K. IK. And technically they're supposed to have a little line on top of them, but it's okay. Because it represents like a segment, a distance from these 2 points, okay? Let's do some math now, okay? So the letters do matter. They tell you what's congruent and what's not congruent, okay? So the next part says, we have this picture, it says triangle WXY. If you look, you have 3 triangles, so let's look at our picture, W to X. I moved it on the ledge.
Oh, I was like,
And then Y. So we have this triangle. which is like a big triangle. It's not even one of the small ones. And then you also have ZYX, which is the other big triangle. Okay. So we got to write, yes, bring me your phone. An equation to represent, to solve for P and to solve for Q. The equations are, the math is not hard for geometry. You just need to make your own equations. So if we know these two triangles are congruent, does anybody know an equation I could use to solve for P? What? No. Not 180 because this is the side length, so it's not 180. So what is 7P? Yes. So this side, XW, if you look, XW is the first two letters. That matches the first two letters in the other statement, which is YZ. So that equals to 20. What would be the other equation for Q? Yes. I can math properly. Okay, take a second, solve your two equations. Easy peasy. Julia, solve your equations. Math. Because I'm not doing it for you. It's two step equations. You should be able to do this. Easy peasy. It is 2 steps, but there's 2 problems that are 2 steps. So there's 4 steps. This is algebra, pre-algebra. This is like 7th grade. 6th grade. Pre-algebra, 7th grade accelerated. I'm just confused. How did you get here?
I was in pre-algebra.
You weren't in 7th grade accelerated? Yeah, you probably were. Okay, so what do we get for P? Good. And what do we get for Q? Good. Okay, let's go to the back. Because you minus 13, divide by 7, minus 3, divide by 2. Okay, let's go to the back. Let's do number 5. Whatever we don't do, you're going to do, so you'll only have a couple. We're going to do, we'll set up like, we'll do 5 and then we'll set up one more. So number 5 says if triangle BAT is congruent to triangle DOG, we know B is 14 degrees, angle of G is 29 degrees, the measure of angle O is 10x plus 7, find x and the measure of angle O, okay? So when in doubt, what are we going to do? Okay, so we got 2 triangles. We know they're congruent, so I'm going to draw 2 triangles. How you write the first one does not matter. Remember, so I have to use B, A, and T. It does not matter where B, A, and T go. They have to go somewhere on the first triangle though. So I'm just going to put B down here, A at the top, and then T over here. But how I write the second one is based on the first one. So because I put B down here, what must go down here? Not B. There's D.
Oh, it has, oh.
If I put T down here, what has to go down here? G, and what's going to go at the top? O. So it does matter where you place them, technically for the second one, not the first one. So we're going to put the information on our picture because we are visual people. Now, if it says the measure of angle B is 14 degrees, should this be on the sides or should it be in the inside? Inside, because it's angles. So they're the inside angles. So B is 14 degrees. G is 29 degrees. O is 10x plus 7. Did I put this in the right spot? Oh, it was at the top. My bad. You guys didn't even call me out for that. Somebody could have got extra credit. Because y'all missed it. That's what you get. No extra credit for you. I said it as I said it. You said it as I said it. Okay. So, corresponding angles are congruent. So where else could I put the 14? D. So 14 can move over here. Technically, I could put the 29 over here and the 10x plus 7 over here, but you don't need to repeat literally everything. Does anybody see what I could do now to solve? How?
You can add the 19.
Yes, you could do that. You're gonna add these all up and equal it to 180. So, but yours is bad, so you're fine. Because the inside of a triangle adds to make 180. So take a minute, solve your equation, because I'm not gonna do it for you. We'll talk about the answer. You do have to find x. So once you find x, you're gonna plug it back in to find O. So see what you get for x. It's 14.
Don't say that. Oh my, don't say it out loud. 714. No, I'm not.
Use a calculator. Why are you thinking so hard? What'd you get? Nice. Now plug it back in. Yeah.
No, really. What they're saying. See how it me to make 182. That's the first one. Like it's to be. Not working. How? It's gonna be the same.
Okay, what do you get for x? 13. And when you plug it back in, what do you get? 137. Okay, so 137 degrees because it's an angle, okay? Let's set up one more and then you guys can solve it, okay? Let's go to number 7. So, number 7, same thing. We're going to, when in doubt, draw it out. So, we're going to have 2 triangles. The first one technically doesn't matter how you list it. I'm going to put D, E, and F. Write the other one out and put your stuff on your picture. Last time it was in the picture because it was an angle. This time it's a side length. So they should be on the outside because they represent sides. So take a second, label your other triangle PQR. Make sure you match the letters to make sure it's in the proper order.
Do you always start at the bottom?
No, you can start wherever you want. That's why I moved it this time. Marcy, did you draw your picture? Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, so your picture should hopefully look like this. Okay. Does anybody see what you could do first? Tell me. Good, because this side is the same as the right side on the other one, because they're in the same spot, this is equal to this. This time you're not adding to make 180 because it's sides. So those 2 sides are congruent, so I can set them equal to each other. So take a second, solve for x. Yep.
Oh, wait, here.
17. Okay, so we get 17. Now what can we do next? Plug it in where? So you could plug it in here and here, but you don't need to. You should plug it in here because the next step you need to do is find y. So I'm actually going to plug it into this one because whatever I get here is going to be the same as y. Yes, you did. So what do you end up?
Shut up.
45.
Hey, man. Think out loud here. Think to yourself.
Okay. So you have 3 problems. You have 4, 6, and 8, and then you have 1 IXL. Let me know if you get stuck. When in doubt, draw it out.